So I noticed, or I was unhappy with the NURBS by control point because we were actually missing our control points as we went through. That bothered me. And then it realized that I was just using the wrong function. I really needed to be using a NURBS curve by points. And you see the difference is now that if I was to, this is the one we were using in the last clip, and this is the one I'm suggesting we use. So I'm going to pull this one out and delete that. Now let's just take a look at what we need to do to start thickening these up, and I'll kind of abbreviate it because we already have done some of this before with the other elements. So I've grabbed the I'm just going to start reconnecting things as we move along and handle it that way. So we're going to take that NURBS curve now and extrude it. So we use the curve dot extrude, and I'll preview this so we can see what it looks like. And I've got this on manual, so I need to let that run for a moment. And I've got this set for, I could make this a larger number so we can see what it is, or see it a little clearer. I'll make this a -1. And run it. I should probably just put this on automatic for a minute. And there we have our elements, our purlins now extruded down relatively long. So we're going to shorten that up. I made it 0.3. And once they're extruded, we want to thicken them. So there's a function called surface thickness, and it's both sides. And the default is true, which means it'll make it thick on both sides of that line. Which is something we would desire, so I'll leave it. And you can see what that'll look like in a second once we connect that up. So I'm going to turn the preview off on this as we move along and hook now this surface to surface thicken, and we'll preview that. And there you can see now we have an extruded and thickened section, so our purlin now has 2 dimensions. It's a little boxy or a little chunky. I don't know why that, what's being affected there. So that pretty well gets us to the point of now having our objects, both our curved beams and our purlins created. So now we just need to really export them into Revit. I'm going to turn the preview off here and turn the preview off here. I want to get rid of all these elements so they don't show up. And then let's take a look at now. Let me zoom out a little bit. So what we have is the top half is the creation of our arcs, and they're still showing here because I've left this curve offset on, so I'm going to turn this one off too. And then we have the bottom set, which is the purlins that we've gone ahead and created. And I've kind of tried to straighten it up a little bit here. We look in, this should all look familiar. The curve points, flattening it. We took each other element and then put a curve through it. So we have both of those elements together, and I want to actually give them something to appear in Revit. So I'm going to feed those both into a list create. And I'm going to do something a little bit unique here because we're going to stay within the family environment all the way through reporting, because I've gone ahead and had a lot of problems with importing this file into the project environment because it seems to be too complicated for Revit to handle. So we're just going to handle the finish of this project inside of the family environment. So I've taken both the beams and the purlins and fed them into a list create, and I'm translating them into geometry so we can move them off a little bit, get them away from the actual form that we're using for determining our surfaces and our curves. So I've added both of those elements. I'm translating in an X direction 100 feet, and that gives us just a new geometric position, XY position, and we're exporting that. And this is all familiar to you now. This is direct shape by geometry to export to Revit. I've got it in the category of generic models, and I've created for the frame a definition inside of the family element for wood that gives it a wood-like coloration to it. And so if we now go out to the family environment, you'll see we've created our structure. And you'll notice that, like I said, I used the geometry translate to move us 100 feet along in the X direction to separate us from the form. So we have the idea of in our presentation is we can have the original form, the frame that gets created from it, and then we'll add in the next element in another clip here soon that adds on the canopy arrangement, the panelization of that, and then the unfolding of it. And we'll do that in the next clip.